For as long as the BZ4X has been around, there have been quite a few questions about it, and surrounding it, including how do you even say its name or how did it get there? I'm one of those folks, but good news, for 2026, no longer is there a BZ4X, there is simply a Toyota BZ. And there are a number of changes that have been made, obviously on the exterior, some inside, but mostly what's happening under the skin that you can't see that makes this really feel like an all-new model. And it's not just the BZ that got an upgrade, it also got some family members, or at least what I'm gonna call some family members. Now the first thing here is going to be a refresh of the exterior, and that really does start with the front end, which has gotten maybe closer to the rest of the Toyota family, but also I think a little bit more distinguished than we had in previous generations. Now this is obviously related to the Solterra, and we saw a number of those changes over there already, but the whole hammerhead look design, the much smoother front end, that's definitely made its way here, and I think it's an upgrade as far as the overall aesthetics go. But it's not just around the front end. One of the biggest things that we are losing, and I think probably for the best, is the requirement that you get sort of a black fender instead of a color match. And so depending on how you configure your vehicle, you can now get a color matching fender. Obviously that's not the end all be all, but it really does feel like it elevates the experience. But there are a number of things that are happening, like I mentioned, under the skin that you won't be able to see that really are gonna make this a much better vehicle to own. And the first is that we have a lot more battery. Previously, there was one size battery. It was under 60 kilowatt hours. There are now two. Only one trim maintains that same battery. The bigger battery now is going to be a 74.7, basically nearly 75 kilowatt hours. And that means we can finally get not just a mid 200 mile range on our BZ4X, excuse me, just BZ, but now we have a 300 plus mile BZ. And that's gonna be huge for folks who really liked their car but just didn't feel like they could take it anywhere. But it's not just how far you can take it, it's how it's going to operate while you're out on the road, because don't worry, charging has improved as well. The biggest change to charging is actually how it's done. So out is your J1772 and CCS combo plug, in is the NACS connector, and this vehicle also comes with a two-stage or two-level charge cable that is gonna be NACS native. That also means that it's going to come with adapters. That is your J1772 for level 2 charging, CCS for your DC fast charging, and when you are fast charging, this will charge a little bit faster, also at home. But starting with the DC, it's now up to 150 kilowatts, which admittedly is not earth-shattering, but it is a big improvement over what we had last year. And for level 2 charging at home, it's up from 7 kilowatts to 11. So not quite a double the range as far as your per hour charging, but about 50% more, which makes this a lot more livable. It's not just more power that you get in the battery, it's more power you get out of this car because we have new motor configurations. We do still have that base model that's gonna be a front wheel drive with the smaller battery. That's gonna be only about 200 horsepower. But if you get the bigger battery with front wheel drive, we're now moving up to 221 horsepower, which is actually more than we got on the previous all-wheel drive. And then the best news of it all is if you bump up to an all-wheel drive model that comes exclusive with a larger battery, and that means you're getting 338 horsepower, which means we actually have a quick BZ. And that's 0 to 60 time is right around 5 seconds, and we've had a chance to drive it, but I can't tell you about that yet. You'll have to wait a little bit longer. But what I can tell you is 338 horsepower is a lot more than we had last year. I want to tell you all about the interior, although it's not brand new, but I'm actually going to do it on something that is a little bit more new, because not only do we have the BZ, but we have another member of the BZ family. This is the BZ Woodland. And what it is a lot of carryover from this model, but it's the more practical, functional use, and it's also a little bit more powerful. But when it comes to interior, what you're mostly getting is interior space, because this is going to be about 6 inches longer, and it's got more cubic feet of storage, and I think more usable cubic feet, because that has a bit of a raked back end there over on the BZ. Over here, obviously things are much more upright. And I'm someone who has mourned the loss of wagons over the last few years, and to me, this screams electric wagon, and I'm 100% on board with it. But what I'm more on board is more storage, because now we have more range, we have more capacity. This has 8.3 inches of ground clearance, and we could take us and our stuff a lot farther than we could in previous BZ models. So in is the Woodland, and now let's take a quick look inside of it. Now this looks like a copy paste from the BZ over there, which is also going to be very similar to last year's BZ4X. And the biggest highlight here is going to be this 2-screen layout. We have the large 14-inch display here that we do have some floating knobs, so that's going to be for things like your climate control and volume. Unfortunately, I cannot fire this one up at the moment. The unusual part is going to be your driver display, which isn't directly in front of you. It's actually out and up in front of you, designed to be viewed over the steering wheel, not through the steering wheel. So it takes a little bit of adjustment, but that's where it is. Now what's going to be a different feel really from the outgoing BZs and BZ4Xs is that this is going to have quite a bit more power. Where we do have more power over there at 338 horse, this is going to come standard with all-wheel drive, one battery, just like the bigger battery over there, but that means 375 horsepower and a range of about 260 miles. So obviously we're going to lose some range when it comes to all-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive, but this is pushing a lot more power. So if you do carry around a load relatively frequently, or you just want to be more comfortable going up skiing and trying to make that pass up the mountain, this is going to be able to do it without issue. The rest of the interior, fair amount of copy paste, but not in a bad way. One of my favorite things here is we now get 2 Qi wireless charging mats. They're not the most discreet. They're going to be very obvious. But again, for people who are accessing their phones in and out, which is me every time I get in the car, that's going to be a nice touch. The Woodland seems to be the BZ scaled up, and that's pretty much in every range. As far as its overall ride height and its cargo carrying capacity and its power output, it's the bigger brother. But if these don't have a sibling, they certainly have a cousin, and that's going to be this, the Toyota CHR, which has existed here in North America before, but it's back, and it's back with a punch because it carries over, I think, the best of all worlds, except it's a little less practical, but a little bit more fun and interesting. That's because it's going to come standard with all-wheel drive, the same 338 horsepower we get on the standard BZ or the all-wheel drive BZ, and then it also comes with a little bit more range because it is a little bit smaller, so up to 290 miles of driving range. But what we don't know is exactly how much any of these will cost. I suspect this is going to be certainly more expensive than the last version of the CHR. The biggest drawback here is actually going to be its practicality. So here in the rear, it is still a hatch, but it's a much more compromised hatch than we see in those other two. And a lot of that has to do with that sloping roofline, but that's also what makes it fun and interesting, where we get over 30 cubic feet of storage in the Woodland with that second row up. With this second row down, we get about 25 cubic feet of storage here in the CHR. So you are going to be sacrificing some practicality, but what you're getting is a much more interesting looking car, at least for, I think, a lot of people. And it's very much leaning into the coupified SUV, but I'm most curious to see how this one handles out on the road. Unfortunately, I don't get that chance today. And the interior, well, a lot, again, like I said, a lot of copy paste, maybe scaled down a little bit, but since a lot of these components are going to be the exact same, the biggest concern I have for scale is going to be room in the back. So let me go ahead and climb on back here, where these seats are probably a little farther back than I would want them, but what's not going to be able to be helped is going to be this headroom, and I'm having to squeeze in here to make it fit. Now this one has a single pane glass roof here. At this point, I don't even know if that's fully standard or not, but I suspect a lot of folks who get this will want that. And what I can tell you is if you're the largest person in the group, the back seat is not where you're going to want to be, and it's also not exceptionally wide back here. But all that should mean that this is a little bit more fun to drive. So what we have here is basically a total reinvention of Toyota's electric lineup. We have the sportier, more fun one. We have the base entry as a much more practical model, and then if you wanted more function out of it, here is your BZ Woodland. So Toyota has put a lot of time and energy into these models, and there's got to be one here that suits your needs. So let me know down in the comment section below which one you would be leaning towards. I think if I had to pick one right now, I'd probably be leaning towards this BZ Woodland that does come with optional all-terrains, but I think I'd probably go ahead and skip it because I don't think I'll need that much practicality out of it. I just like more power, and I like that the range is better than it used to be, even if that one happens to be the compromise one. But all things said and done, Toyota has spent a lot of time, money, and effort here. So let me know if they've got the Toyota model for you that comes with a plug, an NACS plug, no longer CCS. Thanks so much for watching. Check out our other videos here at Our Time with Toyota. You'll find those down in the bottom description. If you have any other thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns, leave those as well. For Nick behind the camera and myself, this is Auto Buyer's Guide. Stay safe, and we'll see you down the road.